What's up, Mad World? It's me, Coach Sess, and I want to channel my inner macho man. Ooh, yeah, dig it. Hey, look, I want to talk about Fight For It number 12, Gaffney, South Carolina, December 18th, this Saturday night. Really quick, I've talked about a few of the matches that I like. You know, heard me talk about Devin Wynn taking on Deuce Carter. You've heard me talk about Prince Hamed Khamis taking on my man Kevin Peraza. And now I want to talk about a couple other fights that are on that show that really catch my attention. There's some fights that might go kind of under the radar of most people if you don't follow the fight scene and you don't recognize these fighters, or if you've never heard of them, or if you've never seen them. I think these guys can make a dent in the fight scene, the combat sports fight scene here in North Carolina. So one of the fights I want to talk about is Jason Vondula taking on Joel Suggs. This is a rematch from their first fight. I had my comments on that first fight, and in that first fight, I just felt like Dula spent too much time in the air for a super heavyweight. He should have kept his feet on the ground and allowed his kicks to follow his punches. The guy has big power. The guy has a long reach. The guy has a good jab. Why isn't the guy using it? After he fought Suggs the first time, he fought Ty Collins, and theoretically, Collins should have knocked him out. All right. But Vondula went to his jab, went to his big power, went to his combos, and put his kicks at the end and used a lot of mobility and really came to fight. He was in his face, came to fight. And had he done that with Joel Suggs in the first fight, he would have beaten Joel Suggs, because I thought in round one, he got ahead of him. Even with all the flying aerial combat tactics, he got ahead of him. And Suggs had to make the adjustment and come back. And just went into a technical fight. He's trained by Chris Clodfelter. Okay, so probably, in my opinion, the best kickboxing coach of any type in North Carolina right now. Joel made the adjustments. Joel came back and got the win. But I also think that the aerial tactics contributed to Jason Vondula losing that fight, because he was flying around too much, and your legs get tired. And when your legs get tired, you lose power. And so I think this time he's going to make that adjustment. He's going to fix that hole in his game, and he is going to come out victorious in this particular fight. So there's another fight on the card that I really am looking forward to seeing, and that is Jesse Ledbetter coming out of Harrisburg, Team Rock, and Jacques Gornel coming from the Immortales MMA. So to give you a little bit of history, I am still part of the Team Rock network out of Fayetteville. Seeing my country cousins is always a big deal. But at the same time, when the coach from Immortales, Saul used to train with Thai boxing MMA out of Durham, I would slide over there every once in a while and train with those guys. So they're also like my country cousins. So this is a in-house family fight, in my opinion, although they may not know one another, but that's how I'm viewing the fight. So Jesse Ledbetter, one of the things that caught my attention in his fight at Fight For It number 11, the dude moves forward. The dude throws combos high and low, and he uses his hands, he uses his feet. Now, he may not be the fastest guy in the world, and he may not be the most powerful, but he is quite possibly the most determined. And one thing that caught my attention is that when his opponent tried to attack him, combat him, or whatever, however you want to word it, Jesse's bones must be made of iron, because I noticed that whenever he would, his opponent would kick him, that it would hurt the opponent, and Jesse would seem unfazed. Then Gornel is a very technical sharpshooter, but the one drawback that I saw in his game was that he was a bit of a slow starter. And if he lets Jesse get ahead of him, he won't even get in the fight, because it'll be too late by the time he comes on. But here's what I also noticed, that in the third round, when he decided to bring it in against his last opponent, against Danny Zaya, when he decided to bring it, man, oh man, can this guy bring it with a high volume. Very, very high volume, very, very skilled, but he's got to divide that energy over the course of 3 rounds. He can't hold it for the last round. So if he does that, he'll come out victorious. So that fight has a lot of mysterious elements going into it. To me, that's what lends itself to being a great and amazing, fantastic fight. So just in case I didn't say it, all of these fights are kickboxing fights that I'm talking about here. So the third kickboxing matchup that I want you to pay attention to is actually a title fight between Phil Kratz and George Kopa. So we're talking about two experienced guys. I think between the both of them, they probably have closer to 30 plus fights, and that's going to be good. Very interesting. According to the docket that I picked up, they're opting to go no shin guards, no headgear for an amateur title fight. You know, kudos to them, because that's some professional-ish, if you know what I'm talking about. Okay, so in this particular fight, the way I see it breaking it down, for Culpa to win, Culpa's got to do what Culpa has always done. He's got to keep the distance, stay at range, and work off fast entries. The guy has really good fast techniques coming into the threshold, the gap, the phone booth, the box, that little space between you and your opponent. I like to refer to it as the threshold, but I know a lot of different teams call it different things. When he gets in, he moves pretty fast and he resets. And that's what he's got to do all night, over and over and over and over. The only problem is Phil has the reach and height advantage, and so he doesn't need to cross that threshold in the same manner, and nor does he have to do it as often because of his distance. Now, oddly enough, Phil being 6'2", he at 170 pounds, he likes to control that counter range, which is at the threshold, and the kick range, and he's able to get in and clinch a lot. The clinch is where Culpa doesn't do much work. And if Phil, who is right now doing a lot more clinching than he's ever done before, and not just holding. If you look back at some of his earlier fights that he would get into the clinch, he would hold, he would turn, he would let loose a barrage of punches to get out or whatever, and that would look like it would give him the edge. But in this particular fight, he is actually going to do a lot more knees, which he did in this last fight. I think he is so much different than his earlier version of himself. I think he is so much smarter now and so much more aware. I think that he has KO power. I just don't think he's fully aware of it, and he hasn't put it to test yet. So I think we may see him try to put it to use and pick up this championship. They do have a common opponent between the both of them. And here's the funny thing about it is Josh Crouch fought Kopa, and one of the things he did that was pretty interesting, he was able to push Kopa in the last 2 rounds, or at least the last round and a half. What I noticed was Kopa was kind of moving back, and he didn't have that same snap, that same power. If you kick too much and jump around in the air too much, it weakens your legs, and when your legs go, your overall power goes. And this is what I think is going to happen. Phil's going to keep moving forward. Kopa's going to end up moving backward. He's going to lack the power, and Phil's going to be able to impose his own game, impose his own power, and pick up the victory. I don't know if it'll go to the knockout, because again, Phil is somewhat feeling his own way when it comes to his power. So he's still got to feel things out. Yes, play on words there. So he's got to feel some things out, but I think he's going to get the job done. So expect to see Phil Kratz with his hand raised as the new 170-pound champion in kickboxing for Fight for It. I am Coach Sess, and you've had words with the Mad Coach.